It was really hard to come up with a survey we thought the preps could handle. We don't know really whether it's worked because I feel safe in this class was one of them, and one of my little boys coloured in not true, and I was like, oh God, this is only April, he doesn't feel safe already. But when I asked him, he said, oh, because it's the monster that's under the couch in the room. And I went, oh God. So that was our problem with this survey, is that the girls who wanted to please us coloured in all the happy faces, and there were all these other reasons when you spoke to students one-on-one. So really we still need to speak to them one-on-one. But we did it again, and there was a change in the results, which was interesting, and it did make us talk about the results. And I guess that's the whole thing about having surveys, is so you can look at it and you can say, oh, okay, what does that mean? So there's a little graph there which shows what we did in April, and we've just finished doing that same one now. And there were some interesting things that came out, but again, some kids said that we didn't know them very well. One of my little boys said, oh, you don't know me very well. And I thought, oh, that's 12 months. I'm thinking, I know you. And he said, oh, sometimes you call me the wrong name. And I'm thinking, oh, it's because I'm old. It's not because I don't know you. It's because I can't remember. I've got too many things. So, it was good fun to do, but I don't know how much it's going to help us, but it was a start. Then the really exciting thing for me is coming across teachers like Dan, who there's a group of us who are starting to think, these kids are capable of quite a lot. So it's always been interesting chatting to Dan about what he's doing in his class. So I'll hand over to Dan. Thank you.
I'm a straight grade 2 teacher, and my situation is that my kids are excellent, very obedient kids. I don't have any Ds, I've got a few Cs. I don't have to exit anyone. So then I was interested in seeing what Ray's ideas can do in that situation. So what I wanted to do then was look at the reasons why the kids are doing what they're supposed to do, and to see what the reasons are and see if I can move like the Cs and the Bs sort of up to A. So there were 2 things that I figured I'd have to do. One would be which I'll talk about in a second, would be to motivate the kids to want to move. The first thing would be to try to collect some data. So up here is just, over on the board there's some originals there of how I tried to collect some data about my grade. So the top picture there is taken in term 2, and the second picture is taken in term 3. And basically I just got a few different questions about how the kids do things that they are supposed to do, and ask them why. So if they're over in this section over here, it's because they're doing what they're supposed to do because otherwise they'll get in trouble. In the middle, they're doing it because they'll get a reward, and then over here they're doing it because it's the right thing to do. So I don't know how that works as kind of empirical data that you can use to sort of assess where the kids are at, but it was very, very useful for me in teaching, just to do kind of assess their prior knowledge, which we do in other areas, but often when we talk about this, we don't. We just kind of start expecting the kids to feel, to start being responsible. I also included questions about when you're at home. We discussed with the kids and found that most of the kids are responsible for tidying their rooms. Well, why do you tidy your rooms? And that was very interesting because I found at home, most of the time it's because they get in trouble or they get a reward. So they're not sort of getting that kind of encouragement to be responsible at home, and then I'm kind of expecting them to be responsible at school. So I have to try to put in some kind of incentives or ways to move them. So what I had to do is look at the motives for good behaviour. This also, the other thing about taking the photos like this, I can have then displayed them in class, and they've been a great way to start the conversation with the class about, we've finished our maths rotations, everyone did an excellent job, everyone was very responsible, everyone did exactly what they were supposed to do. Why did you do what you were supposed to do? Did you do it because you're scared of me? Did you do it because you know that if we get it all done, we'll go outside for a game? Or did you just do it because it's, you're just doing your work because it's the right thing to do? So it's a great visual reminder as well when kids do get off task to say, well, where are you moving along this kind of continuum here as well? So it's been a very good sort of visual aid to have in class. In terms of the motives, what I've tried to do is ask a few different questions to see, with my very messy writing there, what the sort of consequences are if you're, say, trying to avoid getting in trouble or you're after rewards or you're responsible. So one of the things I asked was, How does your teacher help you learn? Because that's your teacher's job. If you don't want to get in trouble, what your teacher has to do is walk around and check on you and keep an eye on you all the time. If you want rewards, they have to check on you and kind of monitor you as well. But if you're responsible, well, then the teacher's job is just to be there to support you, and you can have more of a trusting relationship with the teacher. We also talked about how you feel at school. So if you're just scared of being in trouble, well, then you feel scared, you feel sad and angry, you get cheeky. These are all the different things up there that the kids came up with. When you want rewards, the kids said that, oh, we have to move on?
No,
okay. Is that, well, the main thing, I'll cut to the one that really works, and that was talking about power. So when I talk to the kids about who is in control, when you don't want to get in trouble, well, then the teacher's in control. When you want to work for rewards, well, then the teacher's still in control. When you're doing things because it's the right thing to do, then you're actually empowered. You're taking control of what's happening in the class, and that in itself is, has an intrinsic value. You're not just doing it for teacher approval or anything like that. So that's the one that's really works with the kids. The kids then go, some kids, like if we're doing a very good session, they've all done what they're supposed to do. At the end of the session, I'll say, oh, so did you just do that because you want a reward? So then I'm the boss. And then they go, oh yeah, I guess I did. And they don't like that. And then they kind of want to move on to going, well, no, I'm just going to do it because it's the right thing to do next time, and sort of focus that way. So that's the main thing I've been doing. What's that? Oh, grade 2. Yeah.
That's right. We've just got to wrap it up because I know we're running a little bit over time. But just basically, we've started doing learning walks, getting people to go in and visit other. We've sort of mutually arranged times for teachers to go in, and just view using the language. We've talked a lot about communal responsibility, but also we want to hear the language the students and the teachers are using. So we have learning walks where we just write down how many times we hear the rights and responsibilities, and language is connected to those two principles. And then teachers give feedback. So it's only been a short thing, 15 minutes you spend in a room, and then there's a short time for feedback. And that's been very favourably accepted. People were a bit cautious about doing that, but and as you said, you are put on stage, so you do feel a bit as if it's not a real situation, but it does bring to the fore that that's the sort of language I'm supposed to be using, and it does give you practice in doing that. And the last thing we did was we've surveyed the parents just on our values and life skills just recently, just to get feedback on whether they're hearing the language. And it was interesting, last night I was at a policy meeting and I mentioned it to one of my parents who was there, and she said, oh, if I hear everyone wants to be safe and comfortable one more time, she said, my two children throw it at each other every time. I said, well, obviously we're getting the job done. You know what we're on about here. She said, oh yeah, she said, I hear about it all the time. So she said, you've done your job well. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, you've added two things to the list, obviously, and it's really in the same area. It's the self-monitoring. Your emphasis clearly on, and you can afford to do that when you don't have a lot of issues with management, and that's one of the things I was going to report to you later if there's time, just that I conducted effectively 80 interviews with kids. Why do they behave well? And in the end, we're writing this up now because it's just too interesting. So we can do what you've done. But that's exactly, what you're going is this next step. How do you get them to think about, not only just to know what they're thinking, but how do you get them to think about it in a way that's going to make them even want to change it or think about changing why they do what they do, which is really ahead of the game, I think, in some ways. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over time with this stuff. That's all.